published in 1908, A Room with a View, together with the other famous novel Our Zen, is the undisputed masterpiece of the British novelist Edward Morgan Foster. The novel has been source of inspiration for the omonymous movie by James Ivory, author on another movie as well, based on Our Zen story. A Room with a View was shot in 1986 and won 3 Oscar awards. The novel is set in both the green England and in the colourful Italy at the beginning of the 20th century. Lucy Annie Church, a young girl from a good family, goes on holiday in Florence with her cousin Charlotte. As they arrive in their hotel, the two women are faced with a problem. The hotel manager hasn't booked them, as she promised, the room with a view from which the novel gets its name. Listening to the women complaining about their problem during lunch, one of the banqueters, Mr. Emerson, proposes an exchange. He and his son, George, are staying in a room with a view, and since women like looking at a view while men don't, it's only fair that two women enjoy the view on the Arno. According to the morals of the time, this proposal was very abrupt and intrusive, and Charlotte refuses it immediately. The more she gets annoyed by the tactlessness and lack of education of the British gentleman, the more Lucy appreciates him. Her willingness to better know the gentleman and his son will be soon satisfied. During a tragic event Lucy witnesses, George has terrified Lucy, and from this moment, a deep mental and physical attachment begins growing. However, the real plot begins during lunch. The exchange of the rooms and the acquaintance between Lucy and Mr. Emerson are the very center of all events. Whereas all hotel guests avoid Mr. Emerson due to their tactlessness and excessive frankness, Lucy grows more and more curious to better know them, and if at the beginning of the plot this opportunity seems to be limited only to the short holiday in Florence, Lucy slowly understands how being acquainted with them is going to change her life. A Room with a View is a 20th century Bildungsroman, a particularly important novel because it gives reader a charming inside view of his coeval life, both in Italy and in Britain. The two cultures and the different ways of life play a key role in Lucy's growth, because she gets from both of them many useful elements, either to approve or to criticize. However, the British culture embodied by Charlotte gets most of the criticisms. This society paid attention only to appearances, to formalities, to what is proper to do, in order for people not to talk behind our back. By staying in Florence and becoming acquainted with George, Lucy understands that formalities are not crucial in life. People should rather put them aside and devote themselves to genuine and honest relationships. This is the reason why, once back in England, Lucy can no more accept her engagement with pompous Cecil, that embodies the curious and partially disgusted relationship between the aristocracy and the middle class. Lucy can no more accept the obtrusive presence of her cousin Charlotte, that does everything she can to pile on Lucy's choices and to make her consider all that happened during the holiday in Florence as improper. According to me, the leading concept of the novel is the contrast between love and convention, embodied by George's decision to devote himself to powerful and genuine feelings, and to reject those traditions he considers nonsensical. Every time he can, he tries to stay near Lucy, hugging her, explaining her how strong is his love for her, because this is what he thinks just proper to do. Furthermore, he sincerely ignores all rules his society imposes him, and almost as sincerely, he doesn't consider Cecil as his rival. Someone who can love, and who daren't let a woman decide, cannot be a rival in love. Foster contrasts the characters of George and Cecil both morally and physically, and the movie respects accurately this aspect. Whereas George, played by Julian Sands, is a powerful and healthy boy even if a bit gloomy, Cecil, played by Daniel Day-Lewis, is a frail and always well-dressed boy that doesn't participate in any group activity and wants to highlight his superiority by isolating himself. Cecil would like to encompass Lucy in his isolation because he considers their acquaintances as too low-ranking. He wants to transform Lucy in the perfect lady, the perfect mother, the perfect work of art to be admired. George criticizes Cecil the same way Foster criticizes his society. It's not more possible and thinkable that human relationships are based on conventions, and that true love must meet only formality and perfection, two sterile concepts to encompass love. Together with Our Zen, A Room with a View is the main novel of the veiled 19th century social criticism. It doesn't make use of special effects, but it strongly and openly calls for a greater freedom of growth and thought. Nobody, neither Foster nor his readers, could accept Lucy's wedding with Cecil, and the fact that he daren't let a woman decide. Nobody could accept it, well, especially as modern readers, because literature has taught us how it's important to stand up for our personalities, and how it's even more important to do so if you are women. If we consider some literally pre-existing characters, we will meet many strong and determined female characters, such as Elizabeth Bennet from Pride and Prejudice, and Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. At the beginning of the story, Lucy doesn't seem as determined. Readers don't immediately line up with her. Still, Foster's female character is much more realistic than Elizabeth and Jane, because it underscores doubts and uncertainties, aspects that are part of real life and differentiated from a novel. Lucy grows through complete confusion, through her willingness to meet society's rules and contemporarily to ignore them. She slowly becomes aware of the ongoing changes and finally accepts her feelings for George. The novel's conclusion summarizes Lucy's willingness to impose herself as a person and as a woman. She eventually doesn't want to submit herself anymore to the sterile conventions society imposes her, and she will begin to ignore them. George accepts her growth, and the story will finish with George in Florence again and together again. The movie, inspired by Foster's novel, is incredibly faithful to the novel's atmosphere. The actors resemble a lot to the novel's characters, and sometimes the lines are directly taken from the novel. The success of the movie and its faithfulness are mainly embodied by Maggie Smith, with her incredible interpretation of Charlotte, and by Daniel Day-Lewis, that masterfully plays Cecil. James Ivory's movie is particularly important because it brought to new light a famous author, yet not known to the great public until then. Furthermore, to the movie's credit, it must be said that it also portrays strongly every aspect of every character, even the most negative, in which bad and funny aspects get equally underscored. However so wearisome Charlotte's character may appear, Maggie Smith's interpretation makes it annoying, but at times funny and even ridiculous, and meets a theory according to which no character is totally negative, but all characters are complex, even if in some cases the negative aura is predominant. The same goes for Cecil, which Daniel Day-Lewis' interpretation does a really good turn. Whereas readers find Cecil totally unpleasant and arrogant, spectators find out a different character, one that they would immediately chase away from the stage, but that sometimes they consider as funny. If we wanted to find something totally different between the novel and the movie, we could only talk about the end. George and Lucy have decided to make their love dream come true, and to come back to Florence in the room with a view, from which their story began. In the novel, readers understand clearly that Lucy's family hasn't totally accepted her sudden decision. Furthermore, the letter that Lucy's brother Freddie sends her make readers understand how happy Lucy is with George, but also how willing she is to become reconciled with her family and friends. The conclusion of the novel is a bit melancholic, and this aspect is ignored by the movie, where spectators admire a classic and sweet happy ending. This choice, however, deprives spectators of the perception of how brave we should be to face up to our responsibilities to accept our choices and to go through with them. Yet, if we consider movies' propensity to end plots with a totally positive ending, we will be able to accept this small difference anyway. After all, we go to cinema to relax, or even to cheer up after a bad day. And after all, we shouldn't need a movie to understand how it's important to have the courage of our actions and feelings.